Hi, I'm Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast, where stories speak, voices
Good
matter, and
evening,
words come
listeners.
alive. If you are
I'm Amy Shannon,
following
and
this
welcome to Amy's
on
Bookshelf Reviews
Spotify,
podcast, conversations,
please
revelations, and
follow the
inspirations behind the book.
podcast.
Tonight's
Um,
segment is Voices
Now, the
Uncensored, Voices
interviewees
Unsilenced,
uh,
Voices
have the
Amplified.
option of having an
I'm reading
audio
the
only
array so every
podcast
voice can be
session
heard.
or
You
a
never
video
know where the
podcast
conversation
session.
will lead us, so
This
let's find
is
out.
a video
So
podcast
I
session, and
hopefully
I hope that you
will be
enjoy it.
able to
It will also
be
other
shown
guests
on
on
this
YouTube. So if you are watching
this
this on
segment.
YouTube,
Please subscribe.
and
Thank you.
I have put out a call to anyone who's ever had their voice silenced, not always about someone who has had like their book censored or banned or an interview on a podcast or for any type of interview, and it was either edited, redacted certain areas, or just not aired at all. But also anyone who's been hushed or shushed, you know, trying to speak your mind and someone is not listening. I believe that we all have a voice. We all have the right to say what's on our mind. There are situations where you should probably edit yourself, especially if you're on the job or you're a leader, or some type of, depending on the situation. Because we all know that conversations that we have, whether if it's with friends or family or um, doing an interview or being interviewed, um, that whoever we're talking to, we talk differently to each one because the situation is different. We might be more open with our friend than even, say, a family member, or vice versa. Or there's some things that we just always keep to ourselves because we want to keep them private, because you never know what the other person is going to say. I once knew a man who, um, his life, what he must have thought, and he was probably right, and that's just because I knew him very well, that anything in his life was not notable or something you talk about, that kind of thing. And so, what he used to do when he had conversations with other people, he would talk about other people, like, oh, so and so did this and blah, blah, blah. And then this happened, and it wasn't so he would have conversations, but they would be about other people, not about himself. Um, and one of the things I've discovered about this person was, first, he was uneducated. And I know he grew up in an era where if you had a learning disability, you were just kind of breezed through schooling, not like it is now. But he also had a refusal to learn new things. Um, Either he couldn't or he just chose not to, because he would speak a certain way. He didn't like what do you call it? Prefixes. So instead of words like construction, he would call it struction. And his thought process for that was that it was either deconstruction or construction. And if it was neither one, it was just struction. Anyway, so that is just that. His life was so uninteresting that he didn't know what to talk about. So he would talk about other people. He was also my stalker, and he liked to tell stories about me, inappropriate stories that weren't true, or he would talk about someone could be me, could be someone else, and about a subject. And if there was part of that story he didn't know, he just made it up. But he was also the kind of person that thought if it was like, if I haven't heard about it, it doesn't exist. Or if I've never seen it, it doesn't exist. Well, I've never seen $1 million, but I know it exists. It's just not in my house. But so the, to kind of go back, obviously, just because I don't want to say he's an idiot, um, you know, I'm not judging him. I know him. I knew him, who he was. Now I understand he's more of a recluse, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and sometimes people um they can't let go of things. Um, so, but he had the right to talk about what he wanted to talk about, and that is where that is. But like I said, there's times and places, excuse me, where discussions should be done and how we talk to people, how we address people, how would you if you were standing at a podium talking to a group of elementary schools, of elementary children, or would you talk to them the same way you would talk to, say, an auditorium full of high schoolers or grown adults? So we talk differently. We and sometimes even our speech patterns talk differently. Um, our conversations, the subjects we talk about, things like that. I I have a brain disorder, and a lot of times I remember. No, I don't remember. Oh, I have trouble remembering what I did yesterday, but I can remember what I did 30, 40, and 50 years ago because I actually do remember certain things when I was 3 years old and things that made an impact on my life, especially as a 3 year old. Um, and knowing that now it's still made an impact on my life. Um, Also, and I'm being candid, that um, I'm not, obviously, not going to live forever. Um, no, I'm not dying, at least not yet. And I will keep moving forward to do whatever I think um, is right for me. As you get older, you think about things differently. You may reflect on your life and you realize, obviously, but not everybody realizes, obviously, I'm not who I was when I was 20. And if I knew now what I knew, what if I knew now what, and I could tell my 20-year-old self, what to do, what would I do? I would say do the same thing because every single moment of how I lived my life, how I raised my children, got me to where I am today with a great bunch of sons, my boys. They'll always be my boys to me. And they grew up to be wonderful men. No matter what we went through as a family, we went through it together. And even now, we go through things together. Um, so that is something that I find is very important. Um, I have that, but I also have gotten used to having things blamed on me, and it didn't matter what it was. Um, I've also, even though people have the right to say what they want. But, you know, I'm sorry, I can only go so fast in my wheelchair, and I'm not going to go really fast my wheelchair if I'm in a grocery store. People surround me, go around me, they swear at me, get out of my way, or they give me a dirty look because I'm sitting in a chair. Um, I can stand still for now. I can walk around my apartment. It's about pretty much about it, unless I'm holding on to someone, then I don't. Um, and I get that people can say whatever they want, but there are limits to, freedom of speech and um but just like there are things in life that we have to do. We don't want to do them, but we have to. We have to pay our bills. Nobody really wants to pay their bills, but we have to do it. We have to file taxes. When we're sick, we have to go to the doctor. Some do, some don't, but you should. I really hate going to doctors because I go to so many, but it's got to be done. So we also need to do what is right for ourselves. And because if you don't take care of yourself, you really can't take care of others. And I know there is that mother instinct that you put your kids first. Even now I do the same thing. And my boys are grown. The youngest twins are 26. And the other day I was getting a ride for my son and it was very cold out and I said, "Oh, shouldn't you put on a jacket?" And he's like, "Stop being a mom." Okay. I guess it was just because he's like, "It's gonna be warm in my car, so I'll be fine." Can't argue with that logic. Well, I could, but I chose not to. But if you're a parent and a good parent, you'll always be a parent no matter how old your children are. And I learned that a long time ago from my grandmother, who still treated her adult children um, as if they were her children, and they were both. And we have the right to say no. And sometimes that's very difficult. We want to be able to do all for everyone. We also have to know our limitations. Um, but if someone is talking to you, if someone is sharing their words with you, whether they're through their voice, their hands, their story, something written, take that time, listen, because you don't know what you could be missing out on. Now, me, I repeat myself all the time. My kids get annoyed by it, and I don't always remember them repeating myself. And sometimes I do it in the same conversation because I think I'm not getting my point across because I go on and on and on and on, like I'm doing right now. Sorry. But that's just one of those things. You can't you can't unhear something, you can't unsee something, and you can't unthink something. I mean, your mind can go, but part of it's still there. Um, so I just want anyone who needs a voice, I want to give them the platform to talk about what they want to talk about. And that's what this is. I'm using this part of my podcast um, for this purpose. And it's not necessarily, does not have to be, like I said, doesn't have to be authors. it could be anyone someone who has tried to be um, silenced in some way. And this is their chance to say, hey, world, listen to me for a moment. And then, talk about what you want to talk about. And that's why I have this. It's just an additional episode. And since I already have a growing audience, I hope it grows more because I want people to know what other people are saying. I want people to listen because I'm interviewing people and it's not just about their book. Um, I've interviewed true crime authors who we had intelligent conversations about cases and criminals. And it wasn't just about what they wrote in their book. Um, all of the conversations that I have are unplanned, they're unscripted. I have a script in the beginning and a script at the end, yeah, but they're not scripted. Um, it's just, free conversations, talk about what you want. The only thing I ask is that you don't swear because I have clean content. Um, I'm not opposed to swearing, but I want my podcast to be um, have clean content. Sometimes there might be not vulgar language, but things that might be cause a disclaimer. But it's it's never gonna be explicit content on my podcast. Um, this gives me the outlet, the platform to talk about whatever I want to talk about, or whoever my guest is and what they want to talk about. Listen to prior shows, author interviews, especially the spotlight episodes where they're an hour or so. Sometimes they go over, and then that's just what happens. It's just a longer episode. But those ones are the ones that they're worth listening to, just even though it's a long episode, it's around 60 minutes. um, they're worth listening to. We have commentary. I invite Talia Haven uh, every month, and we do a literary commentary. I talk about children's books, and I know sometimes I do repeat myself and my stories, and a lot of times it's with different authors. And also sometimes because I do request that before anyone books an appointment, that they actually listen to a few shows to see how it goes. The flow of the show and what we talk about, because it's not going to always be the same. It's a conversation, and you you don't know what's going to happen. Um, I'd love to have um, maybe two people who have different points of view on the same subject. Um, if if you and someone else know that and would like to have um, a civil debate on my show, I'd love it. I don't care what you talk about, as long as it's clean. Be politics, um, you know, your favorite color of crayon. I don't know. But I would love to be able to and invite you there to do that. Um, talk about things out in the open, that maybe uh, you try to get your point across, but no one's listening. Well, I'm listening, so join me. So this has been Amy Shannon, and I just want to thank you all for listening. If you wish to be a guest on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. And don't forget, if you comment on this show or any other show, comments are available and I do read them. And join me for this segment next month and each Sunday for conversation, information, and more. follow my podcast on Spotify. And if you want to check out my work, just Google me. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Thank you for watching this video podcast. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is a takeoff of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews website, and which does reviews and also author promotions. You can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com for more information. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, follow, and keep listening. Thank you.